Welcome to Freethinker Radio. My name is Derrick Bros, and I'm here with Micah Jackson.
Yeah.
And this is another Friday here on 90.1 KPFT Houston, where we're bringing you uncensored news beyond the mainstream, beyond the left, and beyond the right, local events and music. And in fact, that was some music there. We're going to get into some music now and come right back, so stay tuned. This is Freethinker Radio on 90.1 KPFT Houston.
89.5 Galveston. 91.9.
Who are we going to listen to, Micah, real quick?
We're going to hear the Yes Men. They're going to be playing at White Swan Saturday the 6th of July.
And
we'll be talking about that more.
Yeah, stay tuned. In just about 10 minutes, we have an interview coming up with one of the organizers of the Houston Millions March. So stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Jobs are the backbone of the American people. Jobs are the backbone of the American people. Jobs are the backbone of the American people.
All right, welcome back to Freethinker Radio. Who are we jamming there, Micah?
The Yes Men. They always got a pretty pertinent information, and they're going to be at White Swan July 6th, so we'll talk more about that. But we're getting into a good show today, so we're glad you tuned in. Thanks for listening to KPFT and all the support. Please like everywhere you can because it makes a difference. You know, you get to find out. We have
tickets to give away today. That's one exciting thing. This is going to be a busy show. We're here with you every Friday from 3 to 4 for an hour, and it's an action-packed hour. It goes by pretty quick. We're taking your phone calls at 713-526-5738. We got a call in about 7 minutes from one of the organizers of the Houston Millions March. Tell you all about that. And we have two tickets to Hip Hop Parade at House of Blues to give away. Somebody who wants to call in soon, and a couple other things. We got 138 revamp tribute to Misfits, and we have this tribute to Tool and then tribute to Green Day. So yeah, somebody call in and maybe you make a pledge to the station, help keep us on air because this is corporate free, commercial free, community supported radio.
And if we're on air, we can keep giving tickets away.
Yeah, and as long as we stay here, we can talk about real things like we're going to today, and we can give away tickets. So
I like that.
Do that. All right, Micah. Well, what you got going on? What you got going on? And we got Johnny with us here today.
Man, there's all kinds of local stuff going on.
Johnny's in the back over there.
Oh, check it out. Houston police officer charged with felony assault. Anybody surprised that a HPD officer is charged with this? I mean, a member of the HPD. But what's kind of beyond the normal everyday thing is that he's been relieved of duty pending a further investigation. He's indicted with a first-degree felony assault in a case that's all the way back from November 2017. What I think is kind of interesting as you compare different stories of this, it says that Chief Art Acevedo released a statement Wednesday saying he was immediately relieved of duty pending the investigation. And that turns out that the HPD had already reviewed the case, too. He's accused of hitting Dwayne Walker in the face with his knee as he arrested Walker in a gas station parking lot. Walker's charged with manufacturing and delivering less than a gram of a controlled substance at the time. And he pled guilty and served 10 months in jail for the controlled substance. He also mailed 3 handwritten letters to his judge and the Harris County DA's office. He spoke of excessive force used during by his arresting officer and asked for an address to write to HPD's internal affairs. According to court records, investigators had body and dash cam video. He turns out that Privet will be represented by a Houston Police Union lawyer, Houston Police Officer Union lawyer, according to Union President Joe Gamaldi. Joe says, my only comment on this case is to remember that it is occurred over 18 months ago. The officer was exonerated by the department after a thorough investigation, and we are confident this case will be dismissed. Okay, so, that's one of the stories on here. And one thing I'd like to point out, no matter what happened in the particulars of the case, if this officer was, acting in his capacity, all responsible and all good, and this is just a bitter criminal complaining, or what, is the question, who really gets to decide, whether charges should be filed? Is it the Houston Police Department's own internal affairs unit? Is it the DA? So it does turn out that what the DA's office is saying is that prosecutors say the incident happened November 14th when this officer assisted in the arrest, and the knee strikes.
So this officer is accused of striking someone in the knee, right? That's
with the face and causing an ocular what do you call that? An ocular occlusion. Yeah. So
dang. So he's pretty messed up, and
yeah, and I think more important than the individual being messed up. That's pretty important, right? Is the systemic occurrences of things like this, and how do we differentiate between the ones that are in the line of duty or whatever you want to call that, and the ones that are just over the line, excessive force or whatever. And so I guess this is going to be one of those cases, and it's kind of interesting that the DA picks it up. Some people I've heard out there comment such as the DA's picking it up to help alleviate public pressure due to the outcry around the Tuttles and other police abuse cases.
People get upset and sometimes they're going to take the case only to just say, we looked into it and there's nothing wrong, because they realize people are upset.
Yeah, blown out orbital. I don't know if we have our call yet, but there's a few more points on this one I'd like to cover if we get a chance. It turns out that what the police say about it is that, quote, and this is what Joe Gamaldi, this is a popular president of the police union, he said that the knee strikes that Privet utilized to gain control of the suspect are approved and trained by the Houston Police Department. They are acceptable within the department procedures, training protocols, and guidelines. During a news conference Thursday, Gamaldi called the incident questionable. So I guess that's saying something. He said the documents show Houston Police Department exonerated this officer of the use of excessive force. A rigorous and thorough investigation, including body camera video, was done by the Houston Police Department and Independent Police Oversight Board, and found no wrongdoing from Officer privet. So I guess now it's going to go to a court to see if a court agrees with the Houston Police's assessment of that or not. And I think that's the end result in this. Where is the decision made on whether excessive use of force happens?
Was the guy putting up a fight? Does it say that?
Well, what they say is that he resisted arrest. You know, it says he resisted arrest, and therefore these knee jabs to the eye had to happen.
That's like a ninja move, a knee jab to the eye.
You mentioned the Joe Gamaldi guy, and he's, of course, for those who don't remember, after the Tuttle raid, he did the statement saying that we're going to be looking for people who are talking about cops on social media. The guy does look messed up. So Joe Gamaldi is the president of the police union, and he obviously goes to bat for the cops and has been quite aggressive about it. And you also mentioned the Tuttle raid, Micah. We didn't really cover any events that are coming up this weekend, but one thing I do want to mention is that tomorrow, I just heard about this the other day actually on another KPFT show, so I want to make sure we share it with our audience. Tomorrow at noon at the TBH Center, which is on the East End, where we had this Independent Media Summit a couple months ago. It's off Jensen. Look up TBH Center, Houston, Jensen. I can't remember. I'll get you the exact address before the show's over. But there's going to be a town hall on the Tuttle raid. So there's a
nice place over there.
It's a cool little community center. People are going to be gathering there. I don't know the full details of who's organizing what, but I do know that the guy who was speaking on this other show, I think it was Connect the Dots, was saying that the lawyers representing the Tuttles are going to have some information to release pretty soon, and so this is kind of like a town hall to discuss what's coming or something along those lines. Either way, if you care about what happened to the Tuttles and the murder, the no-knock raid, and these kind of things, it might be somewhere to go check out tomorrow, Saturday at noon, on the East End downtown off Jensen Street, the TBH Center. So check that out.
Yeah.
And, because these things, like with the one Mike is talking about, obviously they're not all equal. They're not all the same thing. That guy looks pretty beat up. But it's just important. That's why we talk about this, is because, it's not about saying that all cops are, going to kill you or anything like that, but acknowledging that there definitely does seem to be plenty of cases, no shortage of them, to say.
And we definitely need a process that helps defend officers, right? I mean, so if we're going to have these officers, then there are people out there, like in our community, like us, that we're paying for with tax money. So, if they're out there chasing violent criminals and things like that, then we want them to be able to use what force is necessary to catch a rapist or a murderer. I would imagine most of us do. But, are all these cases the same? And if so, who has the judgment on, whether excessive force is used? So I think that's kind of the takeaway. But so who are we going to talk to? I know you. Oh
yeah, let me introduce it. So we do have I think she's coming on the line right now. We're talking with Candace in just a moment. She's an organizer with. She's just a local Houstonian and an activist, I think, in her own way, her own right, and she is an organizer with the Houston Millions March, which we're going to hear all about in just a moment. I found out about this just a couple of days ago. Somebody tagged me in something on social media and said, "Hey, check this out." All right, and and got me informed, and I connected to this group, and so here we are. I think we got Candace on the line. Are you there?
Hi, Derrick. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm here with my co-host Micah.
Hi, Candace. Good to talk to you today. Thanks for joining us on KPFT.
Hey, no problem.
So I was just introducing you a little bit. Why don't you tell the audience a little bit more about yourself, and then we'll get into what the Houston Millions March is.
Sure. So I'm actually a doula. I work in the birthing community. I also, I'm a student. I'm getting my bachelor's of science. And I'm really active in the medical freedom movement.
Okay, great. So let's talk about that. This is what the march is about, right? So is the Houston Million, is it just called the Houston Millions March, or is there a more specific or larger name?
So right now it's just called the Millions March, or Millions March.
Okay, so what is the call for?
Right now you can find it on Facebook.
On Facebook, yeah. I've seen, so we'll post the Facebook event. There's the Houston Millions March. But what's the call for March? Like, what are people going to be coming out for?
So, a couple states are starting to put mandates on vaccines. Right now, it's suggested they're mandated, but we have usually have exemptions. But in states like California and New York, they're trying to take those exemptions away, and in some places, even when you have a reaction, you still have to have those vaccines, and a lot of people have negative reactions to those, and even some pro-vaxxers or anti-vax. There's a lot of divide, like pro-vax, anti-vax, but when it comes to this, even some people who are pro-vax say that they don't want let's say they don't want a flu shot. One day, if they start mandating vaccines, they might be forced to get a flu shot. You never know if we put that power in their hands. And so this march is basically uniting everyone, and, we need to get out there and show them that, we don't want them to tell us what to do with our bodies.
Okay, so like you said, you're coming from the medical freedom standpoint, and I think that sometimes the cry is "my body, my choice," right? And so it sounds like you're applying that argument to vaccines. And this has definitely been something that we've talked about quite a bit on this show, and we have a number of callers who call in to represent both sides of the debate that you were just discussing, and some who are probably really disturbed by this idea, and then others who are who will readily embrace it. But so, we've talked about what happened in New York. Mayor Bill de Blasio issued a mandatory vaccination order and said that parents had 48 hours to vaccinate their kids or face fines. And so this isn't just something that, for the audience who may be hearing this and wondering, well, why are people worried about this? Where's this coming from? This is something that's already taking place in other cities and other parts of the country. And we've also talked about how here in Houston, there are certain doctors that are out there saying that Houston is a hub for what they call anti-vaxxers, and I really don't like the terms one way or the other. I think it doesn't help the discussion, typically.
Yeah, it divides them into camps instead of it being a rational argument about the pros and cons and when a vaccine works and whether you should or should not use them and whether it's your choice or not.
But we have
all that
Go ahead.
Or some people are for vaccines, but they just want the safety studies. They just want them to be safer vaccines. Some people just don't want them at all. And I think that should be up to them.
Exactly. And so because this term gets thrown around, people sort of use it in this way that everybody who has questions about vaccines, or like you said, some who are just, hey, I use vaccines, but I don't want the force. I don't think the government should be involved. There's a lot of different positions, I think, within that movement. So this march is something that is taking place across the country, across the world?
Across the country. I'm not sure exactly the cities that are happening, but I know Houston will be participating on August 31st in the march, and the location is not available right now. It's new. I reached out to the Maine Millions March page about a week ago, and this was all kind of new. So, just go check it out on Facebook. They're going to have a website for everyone to check out as well. So, we just all need to band together and get in your city near you, Houstonians. Let's get together and show them that there's not just a few of us. There's a lot of us, and we even had some pro-vax people who they call themselves pro-vax reach out to us and say that they're going to be there as well. And we really support. Some of us are just supporting each other right now. It's not about pro or anti or whatever. It's just about having our freedom.
That's really good to hear that. I think that's important. So there's a march. We'll get the location soon. It's on Facebook for anyone who's hearing this that's interested. It's just Houston Millions March. There's an event. There's a page. And what was you said there was a Texas website, right, as well?
There's a Texas has a website. It's www.txmillionsmarch.com. And there's also a Texas Millions March Facebook page. And then if you're in Houston, there's a Houston event, Houston Millions March, and there's cities across the state that have some. There's DFW, McAllen, San Antonio, Austin,
nice,
Tyler. They're going to be all around.
Sounds like it's growing.
Yeah, and if it's growing, look, it's already got over, 300, almost 400 people going or interested.
And it's still 2 months away.
Yeah, and it's still months away. So
just in Houston. And that's just in Houston.
Yeah, and I think that what she's saying here about, having these people just supporting each other for freedom and stuff like that is very important, because focusing on medical freedom, it's like you said, Derrick, it steps out larger than simply the vaccine debate. I mean, there's all kinds of ways of where we need to use the phrase of keep your laws off my body. And, this is just another example of this, and this is a chance for us to bind together, come together, go outside, have a good time, talk about the information, let the world know people are concerned about this. I just read an article today that a recent survey said over 45% of the Americans actually have concerns about the safety of vaccines. vaccines. So I think it's not clear cut, and people going to the street and talking to other people that are concerned about medical freedom will expand that issue so that some people will see, wow, not only does it apply to this medical issue, but that's a medical issue too, and so is that, and people will be able to just enjoy their lives without infringing on others.
Let me ask you a question, Candace, if you don't mind, real quick. So to somebody hearing this, I know we got another caller waiting patiently. To somebody hearing this on the air right now, and again, we have people who listen from all different perspectives, and they're saying, well, that's great that you guys support freedom, but whenever it comes to measles or something like that, your freedom ends there, where my kid's going to be
your
in
freedom
danger.
to be sick. We've got that one before. Your freedom to be sick does not overtake my freedom for health.
For all of us to be healthy. What do you say to things like that?
I say that every person should weigh the risk for themselves. And right now, measles isn't even deadly. And over a decade, no one in the U.S. has even died from the measles, but you have reactions to vaccines all the time, and you don't see those reactions in the media.
Well, I mean, so I think that, and I don't agree with this, but I think where we've seen the people coming from is their response to that, I think, would say, well, look, if and when it does become a risk, you choosing not to vaccinate, your freedom of that, now it's threatening my freedom to be healthy and, to have a healthy kid and this and that. So they're kind of coming from this place of a collective, like, greater good, like your individual rights don't matter whenever the rest of us are at risk. I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
My thoughts on that is that every person should be able to make their own choice, and I'm not going to set my child on fire to save yours. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
I can't put that risk. I can't risk my child's life.
You're saying it's a value.
I know people personally who have buried their children from vaccine reactions, but you don't hear about it that often. They're scared to tell people because maybe they get judged for being, or questioning the safety of vaccines. Whenever someone does that, they're judged nowadays.
Yeah, that's very true. And that's why we try to have this show. It's called Free Thinker Radio for a reason, to allow a diversity of ideas and opinions to be discussed and debated. Well, before we let you go, remind everybody again where they can find the page and what date it's on.
So the date of the march is going to be August 31st. And you can find on Facebook, there's two pages. The main, it's called Millions March, or Texas Millions March page. There's two of them. If you're in Houston, there's an event page called Houston Millions March on Facebook. And then Texas actually has a website. It's www.txmillionsmarch.com. And go check it out.
Awesome. Thank you for your time, Candace. Appreciate that. Look forward to having you back on before the march, and maybe we'll have some people in here to have a larger discussion. So enjoy the rest of your day.
Absolutely.
Got it up. I think we got one more call on the line, probably following that up.
We got Mr. Scott. He actually wants to talk about police violence.
Okay,
nice.
Cool. We'll switch gears. So, all right, well, thank you to Candace for calling in, talking about that march. We're going to go to Scott now.
Hi, thank you. Well, back in 1966, I bought a book entitled The Big Blue Line. I was teaching mathematics at North Texas, and an office mate saw it, and he didn't read the book, but he was sure that the book would unfairly criticize police, and he really bought into the idea that police could do no wrong. This has been a perennial issue, and there's always a standing constituency that can believe police excuses for things. Now, this period was a period of transition for me from Republican to Democrat. A year or two before, I could have rejected the book and believed and thought like my office mate.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate your thoughts on that. What do you think about this idea that, police are using no-knock raids and things of that sort?
Well, I certainly believe in the 4th Amendment. Back when Nixon ran in, it was 1968, I think he was supporting no-knock raids, and he certainly did when he got sworn in. And there were black leaders that said go ahead and shoot them. Shoot the police if they break into your house. But I think police have adapted to that and gotten able to break into people's houses without getting shot.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate your call, Scott. Thanks for calling in and sharing your thoughts.
It's definitely important. Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right. You're listening to Freethinker Radio on 90.1 KPFT Houston. If you have something you want to say, call in at 713-526-5738, whether it's about the police violence Micah was covering or the Houston Millions March we were just talking about. Candace, what do you think about that, Johnny? What are your thoughts on that whole thing?
I think it's awesome. I actually saw that on Facebook the other day, and I was like, finally, we do need to have an action on this. And I do like that it's focused not so much on the health of the issue, but of the forced vaccinations aspect, because that's a more clear-cut way of looking at it, in my opinion. I don't want to be forced to put any kind of needle in my arm.
Yeah, and I think the other discussions are going to come up one way or the other, but at least if you're not focusing on that, you could probably pull in, like she was saying, oh, well, we got people who are, you know, what they call pro-vax, who are like, hey, we're going to be there because we support your, you know, we support the idea that we shouldn't give the government that power, and that's a good thing to see.
She also mentioned that she saw people's children pass away from vaccines, which I've never heard that.
Well,
that's crazy.
One of the things we've talked about here is the vaccine injury court, and you know, I know those who might have like flipped a lid when she said, you know, different things, who, you know, maybe have a different opinion or thought or just think that everything's perfectly fine and safe. We always try to bring up the vaccine injury court and look into, you know, the different types of injuries that have happened. We know for sure that the vaccines themselves say that seizures and other things could be a response, and that CDC scientists themselves had admitted in a small subset of children those seizures and fevers can lead to autism-like conditions. So it's just, you know, different things to consider, but the whole point of what she was calling in for is to talk about the force behind the matter and the freedom angle of the whole issue. And I want to remind you guys, while we're waiting for, I think we got another call, that we have a few different free tickets to give away from the House of Blues. These are taking place in July 27th, July 22nd, July 13th, July 5th, the tribute to the Green Day, to Misfits, to, what was the other one? Oh, the Tool, and then the Hip Hop Hooray show. So, yeah, those are being given away. Call in. Maybe you want to throw down a little support for KPFT, and we got a couple of tickets to give away. So do that. And one thing I want to mention, I think we got a caller coming, but before we get a little further, is I was gone last Friday, but on Monday's show, I know that there's a story Johnny wants to cover too that we'll get into in a moment. Micah, we got plenty of things to talk about this hour.
Oh my God!
But one thing I want to just briefly mention, squeeze in, is just an update on 5G. We've talked about in recent weeks the neighborhood Tanglewood and how Tanglewood has been kind of pushing back over there on the West End. They've actually got a lawyer in their HOA. They held a forum a couple of weeks ago with some of the candidates, and I was able to speak about 5G and just the problems. And so that is moving along. Houston is definitely starting to get closer to the point of wanting to resist, and I've even, for those who may have seen earlier this week, I went to City Council on Tuesday and talked about 5G, and we had,
with a backbone?
We had 4 City Council members, not even the one who spoke before, Jack Christie, but just 4 total council members. So that means 5 council members now have said, we think there's something
more
up with 5G.
Realizing they don't know everything about
5
it.
out of 16. That's where we're at.
That video was awesome, by the way, man.
Thank you, brother. Yeah, it went really exceptionally well. I got, like, I usually they just get ignored. And it was also funny to watch the mayor run away when I just stepped up to the podium.
How many times do you have to go to get those results?
I mean, I've been coming since October of last year, so I probably came 7.
Just this issue.
Just this particular issue focused on. Just about a year, 9 months of, like, you know, questioning them in different places, going to City Council, writing about it, putting videos about it, like trying to talk about it. So it felt good for sure. I had a glass of champagne that day, man. I was happy.
Yeah, you know that's a special day.
It was like yes, that's what, you know. And who knows? It's the election season, so some of these people are probably full of it and they're just trying to be seen. But I think that does show, though, that either way, it's grown to the point that they know that they have to take a stance now. So to me, that's still progress. It's showing, like, it went from something where they think they could just ignore to now they're actually talking about it. So on that topic, tonight at G-Spot Art Gallery.
On the way to winning, you have to educate people.
Well, that's part of the whole thing. Tonight at G-Spot Art Gallery, where's that, Micah? 9th Street?
Yeah.
If you look it up online.
Over in the Heights, it's really nice.
Yeah, it's right in the Heights proper, 9th Street. From 6 to 9 p.m., I'll be hosting a What is 5G community teach-in, questions, concerns, solutions. And it's going to be about an hour presentation, maybe a PowerPoint if I have enough time to make it after the show ends and I run home before 6 o'clock. But either way, I'll be talking. There's going to be some food from local vendors and people that we support.
Nice.
Rosie, who some of y'all knows, her amazing Love Waters and things of that sort. Shout out to our friend Doria for helping get the venue, and for the folks at G-Spot for hosting it very last minute. But
yeah, that's a nice gallery. Check it out. I just pulled it up. And I know that a lot of people are in the Heights, and a lot of people like to go to the Heights, and so here's a good excuse to go to the Heights. And
6 to 9 p.m.
But I also did want to make sure I shouted out the address. That's why I stalled. 310 East 9th Street. You asked me. There it is. 310 East 9th Street, 77007. So you can put that in your little mapper or whatever and find your way there.
G-Spot Art Gallery, 6 to 9 p.m. Free event. There will be food. There will be some light drinks, people to hang out with.
Drinks, you can drink light.
Oh, yeah. And just for anybody who may be interested, I'll just throw this out. I'm going to have T-shirts for my Bros for Mayor campaign there as well. So if anybody wants to get a T-shirt.
Hey, we do got MOD on the line here. He wants to give us a Google update.
Looks like we got another one on the line as well. All right, let's go to MOD, see what he's got to say. What's up, brother MOD? You there?
Hello?
Hey,
MOD.
You're on the air.
Afternoon.
What's on your mind?
How's it going, brother?
I will not set my child on fire to give you a sense of security for yours.
Do you like that?
That was, man. That's it. Drop the mic. That's the best argument I heard yet for. Hey, Derrick, real quick. Have you heard about this Veritas?
I did. We were going to talk about that.
You did?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Go
man.
ahead, lay it out.
Your limited hangout intercept, Jeremy Scahill, release information outlet, whatever you want to call it, says that the same algorithm that Google used in China, which is called Dragonfly.
Yeah, the Dragonfly project.
Dragonfly was an analytics for censorship that China wanted Google to do for them. And so now they're saying in the States, the other day, one of the directors of Google interviewed said, we will have this Veritas is the version of China's DragonNet or Dragonfly for censorship here in the States, because they say they don't want another incident that happened in 2016 to occur again.
Yeah, let me throw out a little background for those who are listening who might not be aware of what you're talking about. So we have our caller here, MOD, and what he's talking about, for those who might have missed it this week, there have been a couple of leaked kind of videos coming out from Project Veritas, which is a controversial conservative news outlet, but they film people undercover and get conversations where people say things they probably wouldn't say publicly. And they had a woman who is involved in Google, working for Google, talking about, as you were saying, MOD, trying to prevent another 2016 Trump event from happening, and where they mentioned directly like censoring certain more conservative, right-leaning YouTube channels, but also, people are being throttled all across the board. So, but this is just more evidence, for all the things that MOD, that you talk about, that we talk about. This is just more concrete evidence that Google employees are knowingly discussing these things and discussing changing algorithms and search results and all kinds of things that many have suspected for a while.
So if they have control of the content, because Google doesn't really have journalists, do they? They just basically take what's information and they filter it, or they promote it, more or less. And if you take that, Derrick, along with, let's say, Facebook and other spin up big data opportunities like Cambridge Analytica, you can see pretty much the whole media construct we have now is sort of commandeered for a narrative, and we can sit there and point fingers at each other after the fact of the matter, when the control of the information is either, again, leveraged to whoever the highest bidder is, I guess, with Sheldon Elderson doing that with Cambridge Analytica to use Facebook to get the Trumpster in office. So, yeah, this is interesting times, no?
Absolutely, brother. Well, we got another caller. We're going to have to let you go, man, but appreciate your insight.
All right. Bye.
Who we got on the line, Johnny? We got somebody else waiting? I'm going to switch over. No? No? All right, cool. All right, well, then we're going to go to our next song. I think Mike is getting it ready.
Yeah, I got a song for sure. I'm really glad for all the musicians that always give us music. And I know Johnny found a song that I think is probably kind of fun and pertinent. I didn't know if he had it ready, so I was trying to see which one we were going to play. So I think we're going to tell us about this song, Johnny, if you don't mind.
Well, I played with this band in Austin, Texas a few weeks back, and they did this EP release. It's an alien-themed EP release, so if you're into the horror punk or alien punk, it's called Nightmare at Area 51. And
Oh my
the
gosh.
band once again is called The Butts. This song is pretty good for the show. It's called Alex Jones is One of Them.
All right, cool. You're listening to Freethinker Radio on 90.1 KPFT Houston. We'll be right back.
What do I do, Lord? Destroy the child. Corrupt them all. This is their plan, people. These are demons. Just like the Bible says, it's basically an intergalactic invasion into this day.
Motion Hotel. Hey, they're playing at Midtown Bar and Grill, and so is Jack Sparrow from El Jumbotron, along with other people. Did you see that? It's going to be a great event over at Midtown Bar and Grill.
Yeah, that's an event.
Midtown, or
we're hosting tomorrow.
Want to go to a bar or a grill?
Tomorrow night, 7 to 10 p.m. We're going to be over at Midtown Bar and Grill off West Gray. It's an event fundraiser for my campaign for mayor. Johnny is throwing down acoustic tunes, hanging out. Thank you, Johnny. I appreciate that.
Of course.
And our friends Motion Hotel, who you just heard, that's one. They got a lot of different songs, and they're getting pretty. They were kind enough to come play because they're supposed to play in the Woodlands.
That's one that's been in the playlist in the rotation for a little while, and that's one of the things I'm trying to get a little bit more into. Like sometimes we play one-off songs, like the one that Johnny brought us today, but I want to start playing some of these songs more often because I don't know about you, but sometimes you hear a song, you don't hear it again. How are you ever going to find it again? So I think we're doing more service for our favorite artists by maybe playing the songs a couple of times, a couple of different shows in a row.
Anyone can call in and ask for the song. I'll gladly let you know.
Yeah, call in, Johnny, Pester Johnny. We got a phone call right now. Let's go to, who do we got on the line?
Hello?
Yeah, who do we have with us?
You all there?
Yep.
Okay, yeah. I like that vocalist y'all just played. I've gotten hooked on Kids Voice Holland. They've got lots of talent over there. And in the Philippines, Kids Voice is good too.
Great. So how's your day going?
Well, I'm looking up at the sky back here in the backyard, and it looks like Armageddon from here.
We're hearing
I don't know what's going on in Houston.
We're hearing it from a studio here, so it sounds like a lot of thunder and such. So where are you at?
I'm in Lamarck.
Oh, great. Are you listening to us on a FM receiver or online?
Yeah, an FM receiver, that's right. But a lot of times the signal is really iffy over here because we're in the fringe area. So lots of times, especially at 9 o'clock in the morning when the sun is striking, I have to then turn the computer on to live stream KPFT.
Well, we definitely appreciate
KPFT.org worldwide.
Thank you so much, sir. So I know there's something on your mind you want to share with the audience.
Oh, lots on my mind, but I'll just keep it simple and sweet. One item.
Sure.
Earlier you mentioned vaccines.
Yeah, we had a lady on talking about a march that's being planned later this summer.
Yeah. I am personally not opposed to the idea of vaccines. I think vaccine technology is fine, except for the fact that when they start messing around with how they prepare vaccines, with those heavy metals like mercury and all, what we should do is go back to the way we used to do vaccines when I was coming up through grade school. And that is when you went to the doctor to get your vaccinations, the nurse opened the refrigerator and she pulled out a glass vial of a vaccine. So instead of trying to do non-refrigeration, which is a problem, let's go back to the way it was, refrigeration, and if it costs a little bit more, I don't think people would mind, for the peace of mind of knowing that they don't have to worry about all this crap. And why do we have to subject young kids to multiple vaccines at one time?
Yeah, I think those are really great questions, and these are some of the concerns that these parents, a lot of the people who are organizing this are parents that are coming from the Houston area, and these are some of the questions they're raising. The woman we spoke to was Candace, and she definitely has some questions like that. And I think their main theme is that all these questions that you just raised, to them, they think that's why there shouldn't be mandatory vaccination orders from the government, and that it interferes with their bodily autonomy and their body, their choice kind of argument.
Well, I'm going to throw another element in there that people might not like to hear. That's the political element.
And what do you think about that?
Okay, well, vaccines, as you know, they're mixed in with other health delivery systems abroad by the United States, and we have a terrible record of, after the fact, people finding out that we weren't really honest about our so-called health care for peoples of other nations, in the third world especially. That news gets out to them eventually, and they get suspicious. So we have to solve that, too. There's politics involved in everything, including vaccines.
Sure. Yeah, and some of the cases you're mentioning, there have been cases where the U.S. or certain organizations, like maybe the Bill Gates Foundation and others, go into developing countries and what some call third world nations, and the people end up being sterilized without their knowledge or without realizing it, and all kinds of really just insane things.
And in the light of that, can you all still hear me?
Yep.
In the light of that, it doesn't do well for people either abroad or here at home to find out that when they have a question about vaccines, they also learn that in some places you can't take the viral manufacturer to court, the vaccine maker.
Yeah. It's in the United States, the Vaccine Injury Act. It says itself that the vaccine makers can't be taken to court. Instead, it comes out of a taxpayer fund.
They're too big.
So we thank you for your call. We got another one to get to. We appreciate your time.
Yeah. So unless all these issues are solved, I support people who are against the vaccines for those reasons alone. And if we solve them, then we have no excuse. So that tells you where our government is at, our Trump government.
Thank you.
Definitely. Thank you, caller. I really appreciate his calls because he brought in some distinctions between vaccines, saying like not all your vaccines are the same. That's something that we haven't been hearing from callers very often. So thank you. See, everybody's contributing to the dialogue, and that's why these things shouldn't just be decided on high for us, because everybody has something to add. And just recently, I did reference this briefly with an earlier caller, but I referenced this study that said 45% of adults admitting to harboring some doubt about the safety of vaccines. This wasn't a random survey. This was by the American Osteopathic Association, basically a group of osteopaths, and they ended up questioning 2,000 adults, and 45%. So it's often that the minority feel like they can't express their point of view because, one, they're not represented in culture, right? And then two, there's the aggressive push that there's something wrong with just having that point of view. And often people express a point of view before they're fully, fully prepared to take someone through premised argument to a conclusion.
You mean they might just be repeating things they're hearing on TV or on social media?
Yeah, because they feel passionate about it, or they identify.
Or the crowd's telling them that's what's right, and then they see that the people who question it are ostracized. And some people don't have the strength to go past that. And I'm going to look deeper than that.
Yeah, definitely. Stuff like that. There's all kinds of psychological things that go on with all different people. But these issues aren't simple, and I think anytime we can talk about it and expand the dialogue, then that's kind of what radio and media and Free Thinker Radio and I would imagine a free republic's ability to come together and discuss his role is. So
we got about 10 minutes left. If anybody else has, we got a few stories to cover, but if anybody else has something pertinent, events to suggest, song questions, or just want to comment on any of the things we've touched on, you can call in at 713-526-5738. I'm going to just throw out two environmental stories, one package real quick. These stories I wrote about just a couple days ago. They're published on themindunleashed.com, and they're actually a couple weeks old, but wouldn't you know it, you haven't really heard about these in any of the corporate mainstream media at all. But a couple of weeks ago, Donald Trump issued an executive order which is aimed at, quote, streamlining regulations to make it easier for genetically modified foods to enter the food supply of the United States. And he is basically changing a few different rules through executive order, calling on the Secretary of Agriculture and other officials to streamline the system and to develop an action plan to facilitate engagement with consumers. The language they use is interesting, and build confidence and acceptance of the use of safe biotechnology in agriculture. Because you may remember that at the end of the Obama administration and continuing with the Trump administration, there was a bill that was passed that was known as the DARK Act, or the Deny Americans the Right to Know Act, where they said the federal government was going to label GMOs and that the states and cities couldn't do it. Another example of federal government overstepping, taking away local power, state power. And so they decided, well, we're going to rename it.
Power.
Instead of genetically engineered, genetically modified, we're going to call it biotech now, which is not a name most people are familiar with. And they're going to come up with these cutesy little stickers. And so that system's still being rolled out. Meanwhile, Trump lays out this new executive order, which calls on the agricultural secretary and the secretary of state to develop an international communications and outreach strategy within 180 days. So they plan to spread this strategy as far and wide as they can. So that happened just a couple weeks ago in June, and then last week a new study, or about a week and two ago, a new study shows that the U.S. is falling far behind most developed nations when it comes to banning or limiting the use of dangerous pesticides, and that comes at the same time that the EPA announces new emergency approvals which will allow the spraying of an insecticide which has previously been linked to cancer and to problems in the bee populations. Pretty crazy. 11 states, including Texas, are now given the permission to spray cotton and sorghum with sulfoxaflor. It's a controversial pesticide, part of the neonicotinoid pesticides, which have previously been linked to all kinds of fun stuff. And this approval was also given by the Obama administration, and now it's given again by the Trump administration. They call it an emergency approval for 4 years, where it's an emergency and they need to spray this dangerous chemical on hundreds and hundreds of acres. And again, that comes right as this study that was published in the Journal of Environmental Health says that the U.S. is falling far behind other countries. Another study says that U.S. farmers have applied 1.2 billion pounds of pesticides in recent years. Another study says that most of your foods, whether organic or not, or even washed or not, 70% of the U.S. fruit and vegetable supply have pesticide residue on them. And yeah, so that's
I think we need to work on like what we call an emergency.
Yeah, so that's just a little bit
got a lot of
fun
things
environmental
going
stuff
on.
for you.
Yeah,
GMOs entering the food supply.
Let's get to that in one moment. I do want to. Sure. I'm going to wrap up a quick. Just hit these ones real quick. All right, I want to remind everybody that the United States is in its longest illegal war, meaning that it was not declared by your representatives in Congress. Yes, we're talking about Afghanistan, and why are we talking about it? Because Americans are dying in it now. Two more U.S. service members. It must be really important, right? It must really matter to freedom. We must be fighting off the British Empire or something, right?
9/11, bro.
Yeah, since 9/11, check it out. So two more Americans were killed in Afghanistan just late last week, and so I just want to make sure that everybody remembers that the wars are going on, and that this one is the longest war that America's ever been in. Right now,
there's no resistance to it like there was the Vietnam War.
Yeah, it's kind of
very
sad.
Minor.
It's kind of sad. There's very little asked about it. There's very little asked about the drones. Every once in a while, you'll get a little resistance to invading Syria or
Iran now, or
Iran.
Venezuela. I mean, I guess take your pick.
But I guess that's about where we're at, trying to stop them from going elsewhere. But I know that Johnny's got a really good one. I want to
get that out there, Johnny. This is an important story. We want to make sure we have time for this. Johnny, we'll let you introduce it.
Cool. I just wanted to play a clip from this news I found. It's pretty much talking about the children in the detention centers of, illegal immigrants. They're being held in these DPS facilities. These facilities were only meant to hold people for 72 hours. So it's really more of just this legislative bureaucracy issue that we really can't get these children the help they need. And I'm just going to play a little clip. Probably won't play the whole thing, but we're just going to play some of it just to show you some of the problems that they're going through.
A new report is again casting a spotlight on the harsh conditions for migrant families and children who are being detained by the U.S. government near the Mexican border. William Brangham gets a first-hand account about what some children are dealing with at a detention facility southeast of El Paso.
That's exactly right, Judy. The Associated Press detailed conditions inside a Customs and Border Patrol detention center in Clint, Texas, where allegedly 250 infants, children, and teenagers are being held. According to the AP, there's not adequate food, water, or sanitation inside. The report describes teen mothers and other younger kids being asked to care for infants and toddlers on their own, with little or no help from any adults. Warren Binford is one of the lawyers that visited that Texas facility and spoke with the children being held inside. She's a law professor at Willamette University in Oregon. Professor Binford, thank you very much for being here. As I mentioned, you were inside this Texas facility. Can you just give us some sense of what it is you saw inside?
Yes, basically what we saw are dirty children who are malnourished, who are being severely neglected. They are being kept in inhumane conditions. They are essentially being warehoused, as many as 300 children in a cell with almost no adult supervision. We have children caring for other young children. For example, we saw a little boy in diapers, or he had no diapers on. He should have had a diaper on. He was 2 years old, and when I asked why he didn't have diapers on, I was told he didn't need it. He immediately urinated, and he was in the care of another child. Children cannot take care of children, and yet that's how they are trying to run this facility. The children are hardly being fed anything nutritious, and they are being medically neglected. We're seeing a flu outbreak, and we're also seeing a lice infestation. It is we have children sleeping on the floor. It's the worst conditions I've ever witnessed in several years of doing these inspections.
What you're describing.
Okay, guys, so you just heard it there. These conditions are less than subpar, you know what I mean? So we got children sleeping on concrete floors, children that are, have mucus all over their shirts because they're just not being watched. We don't have enough staff. And the crux of the issue I feel like here is we can't seem to come up with funding due to this Democrat Republicans battling it out. They tried to pass a $4.5 billion bill to relieve some of this, to get them blankets, to get them food, and people are really butting heads on this.
What about the people who they hear this and they're like, well, one thing, well, they shouldn't have come here illegally, and the second, well, I don't want to pay for that. I don't want to spend my money that way. What do you think about that, Johnny?
Well, I mean, they're children, is what
I got a way
to
to think about that. I got a way to think about that. Well, make sure your government gets out of the way of our freedom. Because, we have the ability to take care of people. And it's one thing if you don't want to stop these people, but you can't stop our ability to want to take care of people. And I can guarantee you there's some organization, whether, whatever it is, that would go through the donations and make sure they met whatever requirements a government put on them. And these babies could get clothes. I mean, there's a way around it. And I feel like that's more immediate solution than waiting for these people on the hill up there.
Yeah, we didn't even mention that. That's what I was going to bring up next was the fact that a lot of people were loading up their car and driving to this specific facility, Clint, and they were turned away saying they cannot donate diapers, they can't donate soaps and toothbrushes and these things.
We saw that dude a couple weeks ago who was like, I think he got out of it, but they were trying to charge him for giving water. He might still be at court where he literally gave people water who were traveling through, making their way across, and they were coming illegally, but all he did was give them water.
Aiding a criminal
basically
order.
Something like that, yeah, and he's facing now prison time and he may have got out, I can't remember, but he was either facing or is still facing time for giving somebody water.
You see, this is what's happening now. It's gone so bad that not only in the attempt of protecting Americans, just like the terrorists have won, you see what I'm saying here? Our freedoms are being stopped. You can't help people. You can't...
Yeah, it's not really very American to keep people like this anyway, in my opinion. I just want to see us rise to the occasion. I know that the communities could probably do a much better job than the government if these Border Patrol agents would just open up their ears, open up their hearts, and let some of this aid in.
That's a good story, Johnny. That's definitely important. We should, and I'm sure it'll be going on next Friday as well. So hopefully we'll take some calls.
We didn't have a lot of time to get
like we
into
said
it.
before too, it's not an easy, simple black and white issue. So there's a lot of gray and there's nuances and complexities to it that we'll get into either on Monday and next Friday. I think I'm done for the day. I just want to remind you guys again, anybody who's interested in learning about 5G, come to the G Spot Art Gallery off 9th Street in the Heights tonight. There'll be some food, some information, some community members. We'll be talking about ideas. And then tomorrow night, Midtown Bar and Grill. Motion Hotel. Johnny on guitar. Food, drinks.
Friends.
The cannabis crowd's going to be there. There's going to be lots of people hanging out.
Those kids are cool.
Yeah.
Hey, and thanks for joining us today. It's been a fun episode. We got a lot out and a lot more music and such on the way. Thank you so much.
See you next week.
You're listening to KPFT Houston.